forgive the wind sound. Southern Idaho this time of year is quite windy. But this is my 1963 Ginetta G4, and I think it's about time to restore this car after sitting for the majority of the last 50 years. The car is extremely tiny, all fiberglass, big chassis car, and there's not much holding it together. So, for example, this whole hood of the car. About like that. Only 2 bolts hold that. See these doors. Nice mess. And you got windshield. And the entire back of the car. Sorry, getting over a little bit of sickness. But as you can see, there is not a lot to this car. I mean, that's the entire back third of the car, half of the car. Normally, fuel tank would be bolted right here to here. There's 2 little studs. If I'm not mistaken, this is an Austin A40 rear axle with a kind of like an upside down 3-link wishbone suspension. Get in here. You got the wishbone here mounted down to the bottom of the diff. Everything in the suspension of this car is single shear, minus those 2 mounts. The stud, kind of wild. Battery box goes back here behind what is technically the seat. Yeah, not much. Dash isn't mounted right now. Started tearing this car apart a couple years ago, but uses all Lucas electronics with, I forget what brand the gauges are. I think they're AC. And this here is the Ford Cortina 1.5 liter. I believe the engine code is a 120E. Using dual Weber DCOE 40 side draft carburetors. I'm pretty sure the intake and the carburetors are wider than the engine block. Kind of funny. And then the wheels are actually pretty rare. These are covered in mud dauber dust, but these are Ginetta G4 magnesium 13-inch wheels. And these wheels would normally come on the higher end version of this car that would have a Lotus twin cam 1.6 dual overhead cam instead of this 1.5. And the other major difference was that in the back it would have a independent rear suspension with inboard disc brakes instead of having drum brakes. Now previously I had started removing the tub of this car, which has got fiberglass wrapped all the way around these 4 tubes. There's a section that goes from here to here, and then where I started cutting but missed, along the cowl jamb here, it's got a seam on the inside right there. This piece lifts away, and then you cut around the door jambs here, I believe. I have to double check that. And then you cut the floor tubes, and then the tub actually drops out the bottom of the chassis. Now normally there would be a VIN code hand stamped somewhere in this area, but mine is missing. I'm pretty sure this car got into a wreck, judging by the fact that most of the chassis is brazed, and this section right here is just directly welded. So I believe these tubes have been replaced at some point, at least this one and this one. So my chassis code is missing. Luckily, the paperwork for the car, they used this old engine code right here, which is a 109E, as the VIN number. So this engine code parts replacement plate is actually my VIN number now. So kind of hard to deal with on this car because I know which car this is based on the very hard to see 4 holes that once held a plaque from the person who would import these cars. I believe his name was Jack Walsh, from Europe to it was either Boston or somewhere near there. My dad has had this car since 1970, I believe, and I inherited it in 2018. From what the Ginetta Owners Association register historian guy can tell me, this is the first or second car ever imported to the United States. It was a car that they've been looking for the last 40 years, give or take. No one knew where it was. And it's been in this state of disrepair for the last probably 30 plus years. Got into an accident, had some repairs made to it, basically got it back to where it was a usable chassis with a complete body, even if the body wasn't finished. And I had it running a few years ago, started tearing it down and never got back to it. Ended up moving out of state, and the car's been sitting ever since. But I think now it's a good time as any to get this thing going again. I know it runs. I just have to get the wiring all hooked back up to it. I'm probably going to make a new harness because this harness is just ancient and in pretty bad state. Like you can see the wires are just falling apart. Some of it's cloth wrap, some of it's newer style wiring, and it's in bad shape. So it needs to all be redone. Radiator would be sitting right here, kind of a tiny little radiator. And there'd be an oil cooler that bolts up in this area, but it's leaking. I gotta get a new one, or probably rebuild that one. And then I gotta hook up the distributor again. All the parts here, it's just kind of sitting, falling apart. Oh, well, that spark wire just fell apart, so guess I need to replace that. Lucas. We all know how reliable that is. If you know anything about British engineering. Yeah, it's a quick little overview of the car. Weighs about, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say it was somewhere between 900 and 1100 pounds, making somewhere around 100 to 110 horsepower, maybe a little bit less. Yeah, hope to get on this thing soon and get it going again.